Welcome back to the Unsold podcast. I'm your host, Santhosh Venkatesh. And today I'm thrilled to bring back someone who's become a favorite among our listeners, Vikas Sunkad. If you have ever struggled to figure out who your real customer is or whether your product is actually solving a meaningful problem, this episode is for you. Vikas breaks down product market fit with the clarity of a seasoned operator, using real-world stories from Attenberg, Rameshwaram Cafe, and even a Coimbatore-based grocery chain that scaled its revenue to 800 crores. This episode is practical, it's sharp, and it's full of moments where you go, oh, that makes sense now. Let's dive in. Because I just have a hypothetical example, okay? Let's say I am about to launch a wristwatch company. Okay. I make wristwatches for both gents and ladies. The first strategy meeting I have with my team, my marketing, sales, and BD team, the first question to answer is, who is our actual customer?
Correct.
Can I say anybody who doesn't want to whip out their phone from the pocket is my customer? Or can I say anybody who wants to upgrade their watch is my customer? Or can I say anybody who wants to gift a watch to somebody is my customer? Can I say that?
Well, you can say that, but what's more important for you to, really think when you are defining the customer is what is the pain point that you are trying to solve for the customer. That is the most fundamental issue that we really need to focus on where we talk about the product market fit.
Absolutely.
And as long as you are able to identify, that pain point really well and something which is really bothering them. And sometimes, they might not even have articulated that pain point. But do you have that insight wherein, there is something which is nagging them and maybe they have taken that as their current reality, and they are no longer challenging that and maybe they are getting used to it. But suddenly, you have a solve for it. And then you bring a product which will suddenly delight them. And that's where, you find joy with the customer. Now, you may have a product already designed. You may start with a product first approach. That is also one way to look at it, because sometimes you may develop a product basis your experience or your own pain points as a customer, and then you go ahead and develop a product. But then you really need to connect with the customer somewhere and understand that, boss, is this pain point the real pain point that I'm trying to solve? As long as you are able to nail that piece, then that's when the real early PMF journey starts. So we can't hypothetically say, this is my customer, this is my customer, this is my customer. So we have to really identify, what is that small set of customers for whom this is the biggest pain point, which I could potentially solve with my product. I think that's what really you need to do if you are going to launch a wristwatch.
That is true. I think our audience has probably got a fair idea about what we're going to talk about today.
Right.
Yes, product market fit. Hello guys, welcome back to the Unsold podcast. I'm your host, Santhosh Venkatesh, as usual. And over the past 2 years, I've hosted many interesting industry leaders on the podcast, in person, virtual. And it's very rarely that I get to bring back somebody whom I thoroughly loved having a conversation for the first time. And today I have Vikas Sunkad back in the hot chair. And thank you so much for your time, Vikas. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Santhosh. Pleasure being back again.
Absolutely. And one thing which motivated me to bring you back is the kind of feedback I got for our first conversation. It really set the tone, or let's say the foundation for logistics and supply chain. So that particular topic we spoke about. And there were a few messages on YouTube as well as LinkedIn and saying, I think you've started something nice, but I think you need to go a little bit more deeper.
Okay.
Bring him back. Essentially, that's the message I got. All right. So to give our audience who Vikas is, so you are a seasoned campaigner with nearly 15 plus years of experience in retail. You've seen behind the scenes of logistics and supply chain. Literally, you've seen the retail landscape evolve maybe multiple times in India on period of time. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, indeed. Because we saw the modern trade, explosion in 2005 and 6. Before that, it was all traditional trade. When I started my career in 97, but 2005-6, we saw that huge explosion in modern trade format where people started going into beautiful stores, right? For experience, shopping and stuff like that. From the erstwhile Kirana experience, so it was a big difference. Then we saw e-commerce, and now we are seeing quick commerce, which we talked about last time a lot.
That's true. So I think this neatly boils down to the topic of whenever a company is about to launch or an existing company looking at their products, the fundamental question, which is so important and impacts everything else, it impacts how either they survive or thrive, is who is my ideal customer.
Right.
Correct? So on that line, I want to talk about product market fit. What is product market fit?
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and most of the startups do struggle a lot with that because everybody in startup space, especially, right, is trying to create some kind of an impact in the market, which means that they are taking some new solution to the market, or they have a new product, or they may go with a new service, right? And somewhere, they are latching up with an idea of bringing in something new with the premise or underlying assumption ki boss, something's not working well today, right? And that's how there is a requirement for somebody new to come in and do the fulfillment of that demand, or so to say. And this problem is also being faced by large organizations because customer is constantly evolving. Customer is not the same, like, right? What we were 10 years back, today we are different. Our requirements are different. Now, product market fit essentially talks about in early stage, it is very important because when you are trying to launch something new, it's very difficult for a startup to create a product which is very general in nature and say, ki boss, everybody is my customer, because it becomes very diffuse for you, because you have limited resources, you have, limited time, because somewhere you have to create the pull also for the product. So the pull will get created when your product is basically going to solve some huge pain point for certain customer segment. Not all the segment customers will have the same pain point today, but there are few customers segment where, this need state is very, very acute, and maybe nobody has bothered to solve it. And now as a startup founder, you have identified or nailed that need state or that pain point beautifully. And through your product or solution, you're taking care of that need state and pain point, and you're delivering it to your customer at a price which they are very happy with. That is when you have achieved your early PMF, if I may say so. And it's a very iterative process. Right. It's not something, you get an idea and overnight you deliver it. Unless you've been in the business for quite some time. There are few founders I have met, who have been in business for generations. And then they come up with a great idea, because with the hindsight of the experience that they have, and then they nail product market fit very early. Right. But if you are an early founder, first time founder, it's an iterative process, and you really need to, understand the customers better. And you also maybe need to pivot your product. You need to fine tune, prototype your product, and exactly nail the problem. Right. With your product or solution. That is how I would like to define the PMF.
Fair. Because, I think this nearly boils down to one thing. What does a product stand for? From convenience to value,
right?
Emotions to, there are so many elements which appeals to either a large segment of the audience or a particular segment of the audience.
Right.
So when we think of, let's take an example, right? Mm-hmm. Just before we started this podcast, we were talking about two examples. I feel at a very reductionist level, we can classify the retail market into essentials and non-essentials. Right? So essentials, let's say a grocery store. Mm-hmm. Non-essentials can be very, very specific. Mm-hmm. Let's say adult diapers. Very, very specific. Even if I really nitpick, I can still say this cannot be classified as essential, this is something non-essential. So whatever it is, let us take the example and try to fit that product market definition which you gave. Can you give us an example of a business which you have observed?
Right. So see, I will talk about a slightly traditional business, and I've been traveling across the country, and Coimbatore is one place where I've been a lot. And there is this culture in that city which I have noticed, that people like to go and do their fruits and vegetable shopping, through these chain of stores or stores called as Palamudir Cholai, which means that Palamudir is fruits and vegetables, Chola is a shop in Tamil. Okay, so Pala is Phala, I think, and Mudir is, maybe vegetables. Palamudir Chola is, what I would like to call it, the fruits and vegetable shop in Tamil Nadu. And specifically in Coimbatore, I have seen this chain of Palamudir Cholai shops called as Kovai Palamudir Cholai. Now, if you happen to go to Coimbatore, you will see some beautiful Palamudir Cholai shops, fruits and vegetable shop with the brand name of Kovai. And now they are all across the city, and suddenly they have been able to identify ki boss, there are certain customers in this city who like to have that experience of going and conveniently shopping some really high quality fruits and vegetables, and then obviously other grocery stuff and those kind of things. So they have been able to identify this need state very nicely, and they have been able to convert that need state or pain point of the customer into a manifestation of a product or a shop or a grocery chain. And it has worked really well, and now they are across TN. They have opened more franchise stores, and I think they are clocking a turnover of more than 400 crores, and they have been valued at more than 800 crores is what I hear from a recent report that I read. So I think this is a very classic a grocery store which one would say that, hey, what's so new about it? Kind of a thing. Everything that has to be done has been done already. But there is somebody who comes into the market, and in a specific market, they are able to identify ki boss, there is this customer in Coimbatore who doesn't want to go and do that hassle of a street side shopping. Right. But instead, they want that experience and they are willing to pay for that. And then they create that.
Right.
In this thing, there is a concept which comes, which I would like to call as a beachhead market. Okay. Because see, PMF, when you are trying to say that this is my customer, right? You are essentially talking about the attributes of the customer. Right. That, hey, my customer is, maybe a working professional. They are maybe, what do I say? Couples with, so many number of kids. They are both earning. They live in nuclear families. You basically put the proper demographics. Their earning is so and so. They live in such kind of houses. They have this kind of a educational background. They have this kind of a psychographic profile. They like to enjoy their time, free time. They don't want to get into the hassles of shopping. So you basically kind of define your customer profile. That is one part of it, which is helping you define the segment of the customer. But the beachhead market, what it does is it basically adds a layer of geography to it. That where do I go and do it? Should I do this customer in Bombay or in Tirupati or in, Bhopal or some such place, So beachhead market is that market where you are 100% sure that if you have properly understood this market customer segment properly, and if your product is really good, then you go and launch it in that beachhead market, then your chances of success are the best. Right. So the Kovai Palamudir Cholai beachhead market was Coimbatore. So what they did was they beautifully landed in that particular location and they opened the first store, which got like crazy response. I'm sure they generated tons of cash and then they expanded to more and more stores. So this is the concept of product market fit along with BHM, the beachhead market. Right. When these two things come together, that's when you are able to get that early signals or you are able to validate your ideas quickly without burning too much of money, and you are, being very smart in that sense because you're lean. You're not going all out and saying that, hey, Kovai Palamudir Chola is the next big thing happening in this city. No, that doesn't work. You'll try with one store. The concept is good. The customers give you that response. There is a word of mouth that happens. And what makes the best sense is when the cash registers start ringing. Then you have so much of more cash and you can open the next neighborhood or the third neighborhood or the fourth neighborhood. And that brings me to the next point, which is the case of our own city, right? Rameshwaram Cafe. it's an amazing case of understanding the customer need state along with the BHM, the beachhead market. So when Rameshwaram Cafe started, today we see Rameshwaram cafes as huge retail stores, right? But when it started, it was in Indranagar in a small place. They didn't open. So they were very smart. They said that let's try it out. The idea seems very promising. And, let's not like be crazy and put up a huge storefront and those kind of things. So if you go to Indranagar store, it was a very small store, but they chose Indranagar. Just think about it. Indranagar is the place in Bangalore where you find the most upwardly mobile and trendy people, right? Yeah. The youth hang out there. And then they made eating masala dosa and idli cool, right? Because they opened from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., right? Or 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. Yeah. They open early in the morning, they close late in the night. So middle of the night, 3 youngsters, they feel hungry, they can go and chill out, right? In a dosa joint, which was unthinkable at one point of time. So I think again, they were able to identify the need state of that customer segment, which was young, happening. They are not very happy with, the current set of dosa joints which are there or idli joints which are there in Bangalore. So they actually entered in a highly saturated market. Both Palamudir Cholai and Rameshwaram Cafe, Kovai, Palamudir Cholai and Rameshwaram, they entered in a highly saturated market. There is no dearth of, either fruits and vegetable shop in Coimbatore or idli dosa joints in Bangalore. But still they entered because they knew that there is a set of customers whose need state none of the existing player is able to meet properly. With that insight, they were able to smartly get in, choose the right beachhead market, get the cash registers ringing and expand. So Rameshwaram Cafe is bootstrapped, if you ask me, isn't it? They have gone from one place to another into bigger and bigger place. Now they are in Hyderabad. Yes. They are in Bangalore, T1 airport. I travel a lot and I see a huge thing has come up. Yeah. Everyone who is traveling out or Bangalore will get a chance to now eat Rameshwaram Cafe dosa or idli or whatever at the airport. So becoming more and more aspiration. Right. So yeah, these are few thoughts and examples, on PMF and how this BHM plays a very important role, the beachhead market.
Yeah, that is actually very telling that the one thing which you spoke about is what is the one feedback the business gets as a signal to understand that yes, this is working is obviously the cash register.
Yes.
So I think for businesses who sell products online or offline with these two examples which you gave so beautifully and eloquently, what other signals indicate or tell the business saying, look, you may not have achieved PMF yet, but I think there are positive signals here. You are sort of getting there. Is there something like that so that what I mean to say is businesses should not stumble into product market fit. You keep serving everybody.
Right.
Suddenly you look at data after a quarter or a couple of quarters and say, ooh, it's not necessarily nuclear families. It is people like this. 80% of our business comes from this cohort.
Right.
And maybe we should concentrate on this. They should not stumble into this. Are there any signals where businesses can look at it and say, okay, I think, see, the early PMF is different compared to mass adoption. See, there is an early PMF. So early PMF, that's why I'm using the word early product market fit. Because when you are launching something new, right, you know that this is my first set of customers. They are the ones who are looking for this solution. I was not that, for example, for Rameshwaram Cafe. Okay, I was not that. I was happy going to the regular idli and dosa joints and enjoying whatever, right? But there were a few youngsters, who I knew. They said that, why don't you go there? Yeah. So they were Rameshwaram Cafe's early customers because they knew something different is there and I want to try that. They told us, and then one fine morning, me and my wife drove there and had it. So for Rameshwaram Cafe, having more and more customers is not a bad idea. Okay, but the early PMF is important because if they had banged on me, as a customer segment, maybe they would have failed.
Right.
Because I am happy with whatever I'm getting today, isn't it? But there are a few customers whose pain point is more acute than me. Right. They are the ones who will ensure the business survives. After that, it becomes mass adoption. Everyone wants it.
right? Everyone wants to enjoy, everyone wants to have a Rameshwaram experience, etc., etc. So hence nailing the early PMF is important, and as it becomes more and more mainstream, then it becomes everyone is their customers. They can't say, "Ki boss, no, I will not serve this customer," or something like that.
Restrict to one particular.
But early PMF plays a very critical role because that validates your idea. And you both of us were talking about the Atomberg, right?
Yes.
Story,
Yes.
wherein they struggled, right? If you look at the Atomberg story, I mean, they struggled. Today, everybody is talking about those beautiful, sleek-looking fans and stuff like that. But and everybody thinks it's a D2C company, but actually, they were able to validate their product market fit through a B2B business, because they were the ones to innovate, this brushless DC motors in the fan, which nobody had done so far. It was the most neglected. Again, they entered in a very, very saturated market. Because ceiling fan is a historical thing. We've been seeing ads of Usha and whatnot since we were kids.
Orient, PSPO.
Yeah, all these things were there.
Brand.
But they were the ones to bring in. But it didn't happen, right? Suddenly. They had to ideate and they had to prototype their product so many number of times. Till such time they were able to identify this idea. And in their case, the reason why they were able to bag that B2B idea, and I was reading about it, is because they found out that in the ceramic industry in Saurashtra, they need to run fans continuously to dry, the stuff. And their brushless DC actually was giving almost 2,500 rupees of savings per annum to each of these customers per fan, depending on the amount of wattage which was being consumed.
Right.
And because of the brushless DC design, their consumption of electricity was much lower. So once the ceramic fan owners saw a serious cash benefit, so in their case, they were able to validate the idea. Because, hey, this is a product which doesn't just look good and great and all that, but it is delivering hard cash back to the customers. And that's how they were able to bag their first set of orders. And then when they went more and more, they started doing more and more B2B. And then they went to Amazon and Flipkart. And then they went to distributors and mainstream stores and stuff like that. So hence, hitting the early PMF is a very different ball game. Today, Atomberg is a mainstream brand, right? Everyone is standing next to Havells and whatnot, Cromptons and everyone. So if you go to any store to buy a set of fans, you will find, ki boss, there is a Havells, there is this, there is a Atomberg also. Now you make a choice which one you want.
In fact, on Blinkit, if I have to buy a fan, which I did, Atomberg fans, BLDC fans, Atomberg is the only thing which you see.
Yeah, that's their distribution.
Yeah.
That's their distribution power.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So today Atomberg is 1,000 crore plus company.
Fantastic, yeah.
But it doesn't happen, just like that. It takes a lot of iterative process.
Right.
Because getting the first set of customers and identifying how you are solving for their need state. Now, they go and talk about it, ki boss, we will save your electricity.
Right.
People can understand, their designs look good. But the clear value proposition was validated by the bunch of ceramic B2B customers in some Saurashtra.
In fact, that is a story which sold me the idea of Atomberg is, look here, something new and innovative. I thought they had patented this, but apparently it is not.
Yeah.
Which you said. Take something truly innovative and prove it in one case. And then I'll come back to something which I want to talk about next. Storytelling and narrative. How important that is in the context of product market fit.
Right.
I think Atomberg probably has just beautifully nailed it. You take a B2B case and build a story around it in the sense of B2C, which is where I fell into. I just bought, if somebody, a tile making factory, ceramic tile making factory, who has to keep their fans on for hours on end, they see savings, then what? Obviously, I'm not going to run the fan that correct. But if at all, I use this product, I'm sure it is very efficient.
Yeah.
That is the story I fell into. I think quickly going back to the Rameshwaran Cafe, even though I fall into the category of, I saw that it's too expensive, I'm not the ideal customer, but people, if they thoroughly enjoy it, they should. At a macroeconomic level, because I always think that if there is a time in India to launch a business and target upwardly mobile cohort of people, I think this is the time. because India has slowly, at least the urban India is slowly moved on from surviving to value-driven, experience-driven lifestyle.
Correct.
I always used to think where we had, I used to look at McDonald's and say, where is India's McDonald's? And then there was MTR. Now, when I look at Starbucks or Pret a Manger and say, where is India's Starbucks? The slightly more upscale, slightly more premium version of, let's say, a McDonald's. Okay, Shanti Sagar maybe could have been bracketed as a McDonald's 15 years ago. But that also has evolved.
Right.
But where is India's Starbucks? I think that is how I see Rameshwaram Cafe.
Right.
And coming back to Attenberg and the story, how important is narrative building to capture a particular set of people and say, I want to appeal to this segment. I have early signals that this type of cohort or this type of customer is my ideal customer.
Right.
How important is narrative storytelling?
I think in the early days, what really works is your customers talking about your product. If you start talking about it, the value is not that much because your potential customers would always have that lens. But somebody is talking about themselves, right? So that's fine. Let them talk. But when a customer talks, some other customer talks, that is when the credibility goes up the roof. The reason why I first visited Rameshwaram Cafe because a cousin of mine who is, millennial, right? He said, ki boss, you should go, kind of a thing. And I was also reading that 95% of the customers of Rameshwaram Cafe were through word of mouth and referrals. All the pictures on Instagram and everything, right, was done, it's as they call user-generated content, right? Even on Attenberg, the reason why it took off was because on Amazon and on this thing, right, you have something called as the customer reviews, right? Review ratings and there are 3 R's, right? There is reviews and there are ratings and there is something else. So the reviews and ratings have been like very good for Attenberg in the online space on Amazon and on that. So when customers start leaving these kind of feedback, there is something called as a social proof. So the social proof is very important. Not because you keep tom-tomming your stuff. Uska fayda nahi hai. I mean, it doesn't really work. What the brands have to do is, how do I build that social proof? How can I get some other people, to talk about it? Sometimes people have become very discerning, by the way, nowadays, because sometimes we see, some influencer talking about it, and we can make out, ki boss, this seems to be like a paid stuff. So, and then there is always, people start doubting, should we really, rely on this brand or not?
Right.
So, look at building the genuine user-generated content and look at building the real social proof. Because if you start paying people and all, then, sooner or later, your consumers would make out, ki boss, this is
lack of authenticity.
There is that authenticity is missing.
That's true.
And if the consumers really love it, they will leave the kind of feedback. I'll give you another example. Again, a very, very Bangalore story and very, very food story again. So there is this chain, not a chain, there was this restaurant called as Bengaluru Cafe in Jayanagar. So started by 2 techies and I was watching the YouTube video by Amarna Kirpal, right? Yeah. So he does this food vlogger. So I was seeing he was interviewing these people. This store has been there only for 7 years, right? And they don't have a Instagram handle, nothing. But if you just go there and see the kind of footfall is there, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And now they have opened the next store in Malleshwaram, which is huge. And that is only because of genuine customer feedback. Nothing else. And just the word of mouth. So many times, people get confused. Ki should I, spend too much on advertising? That's okay to get your eyeballs and stuff like that. But the real genuine thing is the social proof happens when other people talk about you. And I think you should really work on that if you are trying to launch a D2C or otherwise. The social proof is what will propel you like anything in your journey.
Right.
So we should really work on that. So, and I've seen examples after examples where, social proof becomes a huge thing in a brand success story.
Fair enough. I think most fundamentals of business, I think nailing the right product, giving the right kind of experience, I think that has a tremendous uplift when compared to what we use as marketing and advertisement. I think that comes to amplify if you have figured out these things. If you keep getting customers, if they're extremely happy, now you want to, let's say, launch another store somewhere else, and then you use these channels to amplify and say, look, we started here, this is our story, we are coming to your town. Sutta is one brand,
Right.
which is very close to my heart, because I've bought a couple of products for my wife, and the way their story is, the two Bengali girls, they go to weavers in Bengal and they say, we'll cut out the middlemen, we come up with designs, we get it done, and all the benefits of this money directly goes to them. So it is not necessarily only you're buying a beautiful product, slightly upmarket valuation for the product, slightly more expensive, but still about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 bucks for gifting or occasional wear. I think they have a terrific story there. And Neiman's is one product which I remember many years ago, their pitch was that sheep wool made shoes, which is friendlier to the environment. This is a slightly different example on the other end of the spectrum. When I actually used the product, it was so. At least for Indian conditions. God, when you wear that shoes and get out and it gets wet, it is really difficult to continue wearing it. I hope they've realized that, and they've launched products which not only is made out of sheep wool, but others as well.
Understood.
So, today you are a startup investor, you're a startup advisor as well. What kind of companies approach you, or let's say at what stage they are? Or if I dumb it down, should a company look to get advice or money once they have nailed this fundamental called product market fit, or because it is so iterative that a lot of money has to be put behind this to do that?
Yeah, many a time, see, if you are into technology, right, then you need money. Like Attenborough also, without some infusion of money, they wouldn't have come so far. So I think money would be required, but you have to show the early PMF,
right?
Which means that you need to show the investors ki boss, I understand my customer. I am not just a technology geek trying to do something in my R&D lab. Right? That is not the idea. Because see, we have to understand, when we talk about a startup, at the end of the day, startup is a business.
Correct.
Right? At the end of the day, it is going to be a private limited company, which means that it has to understand the company laws, it has to understand what the regulations are, it has to understand, that end of the day, they have to deliver the financials, they have a board to take care of. So there are so many things which a company is required to do. So startup is not just about, I am ideating and I am doing a lab. That is not a startup. So investors get serious when they see that early PMF, which means that you show that, hey, I understand aspects of business, which are critical for the survival and growth of the startup. You may not know everything about running the company. That's fine. But you need to know two things for sure. You need to know your product and you need to know your customer, how you're going to make money. Because if those two lines are well connected, that is when investors will know ki boss, baki cheeze to hum bhar lenge, I'll know how to build some of the other things, along the way. So I think that's the most important thing that investors look at. That show me, yaar, how are you going to make money? What's your line of sight? What is your revenue model? What is your business model? If you are giving this for free, where does the money come from? Right? Those things as a startup founder, you need to be sharp on. Right. Because where is the money going to come from?
Fair.
So that's what will get that investor's attention for sure for you.
Fair. Absolutely. It makes absolute sense. I think one thing which I'm really interested in talking about is all the knowledge which comes through your experience. And there's a second episode we are talking about business and business fundamentals. I understand that you also offer a PMF masterclass, which I want to get into. But before that, I know that you get invited to summits and talks and entrepreneurial, meetups.
Right.
And you talk to a lot of people in business. And also parallelly, because of Shark Tank in India, it has become at least a primetime entertainment sort of sensation. And slowly people are educating themselves on what is EBITDA, what is product market fit, who is your ideal customer,
Yeah.
how can you bring your production cost low, all these things which were confined to, let's say, an MBA.
Right.
Or at least passed down through from generation to generation, from grandfather to father to son. Now it has become mainstream.
Yes.
When you go and talk to people in the summits or even at a one-on-one level,
Right.
where is the generation of business owners today in the context of this PMF? What do you see? Are they more educated today? What do you see?
I see a lot of young founders who are doing startup ideas, and a lot of the startup ideas are AI driven. So if the word AI is not there, and I am not trying to, minimize the thoughts or ridicule it or by any, stretch of imagination, I think it is imperative and important that whatever you do, you really need to have an AI layer, right? Whatever you do, because AI has progressed really very fast. And everything today, I think, will have some layer of artificial intelligence into it, right? Even if your service, if you're a hardcore tech, or even if you are if you're a marketing company, or even if you are a service company, anything that you do, or if you're a pure play food business also, there has to be some level of AI engagement in your business. So that's, I think, given. Many a times, what happens is people tend to romance the idea of technology. But my point is that don't just restrict yourself to romancing that. I think you need to romance the customer problems also. So my suggestion is that look at that piece very hard. So I think sometimes people tend to take that piece a bit for granted. Ki boss, customer to aa hi jayega, or we'll get the customer,
That's right.
But I think this is where I still see that I speak to a lot of people that they are not able to bring in rigor, which is required to understand that what type of customer should I target for my early PMF.
Right.
Don't assume you are in a maturity of your product where everybody will start using it. Once it becomes mainstream, everybody will start using it.
Right.
The challenge lies in the early PMF. Because once it becomes accepted, everyone will start using. And then you'll also get extensions, right? You talk that once it becomes famous, then you launch here, you do something else. I was reading about Atomberg only. Now they have launched water filters also. Okay, I read one of the posts by the founders wherein, they have launched water filters also, apparently. Now, because now what happens is initially Atomberg was a fan in people's mind, but slowly it becomes more generic in nature. People start thinking Atomberg is a home appliance technology company. That's how you move up, the level of aggregation in people's mind. Then, okay, now they are a technology company, means they can also bring in this, a water purifier, they can potentially bring a microwave because they understand the technology. So, but early PMF, if you start launching these products, people will get confused. What do I do? So hence I say that figure out your early PMF, which means that who are that early set of customers who will give you that lifeline.
Right.
Early PMF is your lifeline, basically. And once you become successful with that set of customers, then you extend. They say, right? First you land, then you expand, right? So that is where it is important. Then you can become more and more for a customer. Then you become more and more.
Fair.
You and the customer will look at you as a much more in a broader scope of things.
I think this is also, this example is of Atomberg is first you sell these one particular appliance and you understand who your customers are.
Right.
Then you say, you know what? At a household level, there are many other things which can be sold.
Exactly.
Now, they may be launching a newer product, but they have an existing customer base and a very deep understanding of how they buy, when they buy, where they buy, how much they're willing to pay, and how happy or unhappy they are.
Right.
I was reading this opinion piece on Friend Shots in the morning in the cab while on the way here about Grasim or Aditya Birla launching Birla Opus paints and their complaint at the CCI about Asian paints.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the outside, it looks like 50%, nearly 50% market share for Asian Paints,
Mhm.
17% for 7% for Nerolac,
Mhm.
and 17% some other company. And Birla Opus is an entrant, is an entrant.
Yeah, it's a new player.
JSW Paints. That was the other company. JSW had lodged a complaint saying of some things Asian Paints apparently did to
Mhm.
pressurize their dealers not to stock competing products, etc., etc.
Okay.
And then CCI said there is not enough proof.
Mhm.
And now comes Aditya Birla lodging the same complaint. Now they've taken it seriously and doing something.
Okay.
What interested me there is Grasim is known for cements, and they are using their existing cement network of 2 lakh dealers
Right.
to launch paints.
Exactly. Just imagine.
Exactly. So this is a privilege your early product market fit gives business
Yes.
to understand if I have this customer base,
Correct.
can I launch another product because I understand them very deeply,
Exactly.
and maybe you can expand.
Yes.
So this boils down to one thing. You and I both agree, and I think many people who are watching or listening to this agree that a lot of education is necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the fundamental, especially in the early stages. And that is where I think your masterclass comes in.
Right.
Can deliberately, I did not want to know anything about it because I wanted to hear it from you.
Right.
Can you give us a detailed overview of what this masterclass is, what you are trying to achieve,
Right.
and who this is for?
Yeah, I've been running this class, for quite some time, and sometimes I run it online, sometimes I run it offline. But the idea is exactly what we were discussing: to give a very structured approach to achieving the PMF. Many a times, what happens is, ideas which are at a higher level, right? You have to really break it down into step by step kind of parts, so that people can kind of understand it in terms of what exactly needs to be done. Right. Otherwise, you just say, hey, achieve PMF. It doesn't mean anything to anyone, really speaking. Yeah. It's an abstract idea. Yeah. But when you kind of break it down into, hey, listen, this is the first step. Yeah. Right. You have to understand the customers. Then the next step is creating the value proposition. Third step is, X, Y, Z. And in understanding the customer, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you need to do. Creating the value proposition, these are the few things you need to do, etc., etc., etc. When you break it down into very, very simple modular chunk bites which people can consume, then they really understand the gamut of what needs to be done in the PMF. That is exactly what I'm attempting to do. I'm trying to make it in a very easy, step-by-step, understandable language, so that people can go back and, attempt to do what I am trying to teach them. Fantastic. And I have had different kind of audiences. Sometimes I get students also, who are doing in colleges. They come and attend. And then there are some entrepreneurs who are there, who are at an early stage. Sometimes there are entrepreneurs who have already done their prototypes and they want to understand. Sometimes there are a few entrepreneurs who have actually nailed the idea and, they are sure, but then they come into this class and go back, with more thoughts in terms of whether they are on the right direction or not. So these are the kind of people, I have. Sometimes there are a few people who are still working in organizations. Right. And then, they want to use this understanding the customer piece really well in their jobs that they are doing. Sometimes there are people I've seen who have moved out of their existing companies and they are on an entrepreneurial mode. Yeah. So they want to really understand because what should I really think about from a, PMF point of view. They come here to learn. So I've had a very mixed kind of an audience.
I mean, it is very heartening to see that actually people are trying to understand the fundamentals of business. Either the best time to understand this is now. Either you have already launched a product or you're just dreaming about it. And the best time is now. Yeah. I feel that educating the people about this is absolutely important. One term which you used is abstract. In EMF, sometimes when you say achieve PMF, you've nailed the most fundamental thing about business is very abstract. What can change that abstract thing into something more tangible is a system.
Exactly.
Now, that probably might be your starting point for the course anyway, right? Because it's like a Google Maps navigation map. If I want to go from here to, let's say, Coimbatore, and I'm doing it for the very first time, and I don't know how much of the road is gravel, how much of it is the ghat section, how much is mountainous, and how many actually pit stops I need to take, how much fuel I need, etc., etc. Pretty much not exactly, but mirrors a journey of an entrepreneur launching a product and making it successful. That systematic process can be such a lifesaver, such a business saver, isn't it?
True. I agree with you.
So, in that sense, is there something tangible where people can go find out where they can sign up for your class? Obviously, to a link with reaching you.
Yeah, I mean, I announce once in a while. I mean, it's not like a regular feature, but I want to make it more accessible to people.
Right.
So I'm also kind of brainstorming and thinking that how does, this concept of this masterclass can be taken to more and more people.
Right.
So earlier I was running it in some, like I ran few sessions with Drapers, Draper Startup House in Bangalore, and then I ran few sessions online. So I've just taken a pause and I'm just trying to rethink in terms of how can I make it more accessible, for more and more people, and people can just probably register and we can have it once in a week or something like that. It's still in the works, that piece.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything from your existing material where it is either recorded or written down somewhere? Because the point where I'm coming from is, as we wrap up this conversation, which I feel has been tremendous, I think we have gone a little deeper, far deeper from our first conversation. It's a beautiful segue to our first conversation. I feel anybody listening to one of the comments I got is, Santhosh, at the end of the episode, is there something for us to take away? Is there something to download or some 3-point list where we can say, look, I heard this, I watched this, can we go back and compare and implement or test?
Okay.
Is there something, some nuggets which you can share?
Surely. So what I will do is, I'll go back and probably share some kind of a document with you. Maybe you can put it up, on your podcast link or something like that. And people can download it and use it. So I think more than happy to do that.
That'll be fantastic. And we can neatly link it back to your masterclass whenever you're sure. You can get people to register, even though you may not have a proper date and a location or time.
Right.
But if you have a good amount of people with interest, then I think that should give you an idea of where and when to host anyway.
Definitely.
So Vikas, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. I hope it was equally thoroughly worthwhile, at least spending your time here.
Oh yeah, it was great, and it's a topic which I anyways love talking, and I've been talking about it. So yeah, it's wonderful. Thanks, Santhosh. It was great talking to you again.
Thank you very much. The dear audience, we'll be back soon with a new episode very soon. Thank you.